In this Clash of Clans video, we are going to be teaching you a strategy which many people have forgotten about. This still works incredibly well and will help you to get the 3 stars. We're going to break it down at Town Hall 10, show you a few different base layouts, a couple of different variations of using the strategy so that you've got all of the tools you need in order to take this into battle and get yourself a 3-star attack. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alrighty guys, let's dive straight into this. What attack strategy have people forgotten about? Well, we are going to be teaching you the drag bat at Town Hall 10. Personally, it's one of my favourite strategies, and I still feel it's one of the best, but many people have been overlooking it recently. If you guys want to know the best 3 attack strategies at Town Hall 10, I did a video on that recently. I'll link it at the end of this one. So what key fundamentals are you looking for with the dragons? Well, we've already started that in this attack. It's been primed, ready for the dragons coming in. They have been deployed from the left hand side, targeting to come straight through the base from left to right. We have used the king and queen at the bottom of the base to take out all of this, and even take out some buildings on the inside, which included an air defense. Any time that you can take out any point defense to protect your dragons, you're going to want to do that with your king and queen. But the main priority is the pathing. Dragons attack any building, so you've got to even take out the trash. But notice how this little section to the bottom of the base here is down. The dragons are going to be funneled straight in towards that center. Notice the top area of the base here. With this wizard tower, the slammer comes in, and that is going to take out the defenses there, meaning look at the path here for the dragons. Very thin, straight onto the defenses. They can get straight through that and to the town hall. Exactly what you want. You want to create pathing for the dragons to get onto them dangerous defenses and get through that base as quickly as possible. If you are new to my channel, be sure to subscribe, turn on that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my Clash of Clans content. As the dragons have came through, we used a haste spell in order to help the loons out of the slammer, a rage spell in the center for the dragons. I'll show you that again in the next attack, but in come the bats towards the back end. Now there's 2 ways of looking at this. You either need to use the bats to continue creating pathing for your dragons. So what this attacker could have done is use the bats onto this wizard tower, and it would have actually funneled this entire bottom side, meaning that the dragons would have continued through the center here. Could have done that. But equally, what the attacker did do was take out the wizard tower and the multi first, get the splash damage to protect the bats. But notice this air defense. That's the one that you want to target with the bats. You want to get that down to protect the dragons. So I think that Kev did the right thing here in order to take out and prioritize that air defense. The bottom of the base there, even though we don't path dragons right the way through to the end of the raid, the dangerous defenses are down, so they can then afford to split. You've got to know when to funnel the dragons to a dangerous defense. You don't want them going all around it, but if you can take them out, then it's perfectly okay for them to split. He got that funnel initially, took out the dangerous defenses with the bats, and allowed the dragons to clean up. But what happens if you come against single target infernos? Well, let's show you a replay after this one, breaking down single target infernos and how you can use the bats in a different manner, and we will be sure to tie all of this up before the end of the video. Okay, so for the next attack, we have single target infernos, and on this one, we're actually using the dragons themselves in order to create a funnel. So we've used 1 dragon across to the left and 1 to the right. If anything, what you want to try and do is sweep from one side of the base to the other. You've seen in the first attack, sweeping from the left to the right. This time we are coming from the southwest up to the northeast. So we've got a good spread on the dragons right the way across the base. What we need to do is try and narrow the base, like we said, pathing for the dragons. So what he's going to do is basically cut out the defenses to the side here in order to path the dragons through this area in between the 2 lines which you see. What you have to do is focus the dragons initially onto them dangerous defenses for themselves, and then merge the bats in. So this single target inferno is a difficult defense for the dragons. Equally, this air defense is. So you want to get the dragons to that quickly. You want to use a rage spell for that, but sprinkle in some balloons. Notice how the slammer comes to this side as well to try and get to that inferno tower. Because the balloons target defenses, they can actually move ahead of the dragons. And we were already in. We've got 2 rage spells to take down that area. The air defense, the queen, the single inferno, and this middle air defense are going down. That is the dangerous defenses that the dragons have to hit. The dragons are going to hit some dangerous defenses. You've got to use a rage spell to get them through. Then as they move to the back end of the base, you want to try and use the bats in order to take down the other ones. So the air defense or the singles, and use the dragons to target the wizard towers. So king and queen just going to strip apart this left side of the base here so that the dragons don't go over there. And then the bats are going to come in with a bat wave technique. So why exactly is that? Well, what we can do is, because there is no splash damage that we have to urgently take down since it is a single inferno, we can put the bats in towards the left side, meaning they will sweep up and over. What that does is allows the bats to get a lot of DPS. Look at all of the bats coming together now. There's so many of them. They've had time in order to split, and they take down 1 air defense, 2 air defense, and a single inferno. All of the dangerous defenses for the dragons. So if you are trying to identify bases for Dragbat, you want to try and find bases where you can create pathing for your dragon, easily get to the air defense with the dragons that you need to, but ultimately it's the splash damage that you want to take down with the dragons, and use the bats to take down air defense or single target infernos. Do take note of the enemy queen and the clan castle troops. If you can get the dragons onto them early in order to take them down using that rage spell, it will help you out. The slammer is the most ideal troop for this. You can either, the most ideal siege machine, sorry, you can either use it to merge in with your dragons as you've seen in this attack, or you could use it to create pathing for your dragons as you've seen in the first attack. But let's try and tie all of this up together. Let's summarize everything you need to know about the Dragbat attack strategy in the next replay. On to the final attack for this one, pulling it all together for you, a little bit of a mix of the techniques you've already seen. So for this one, we are using the king and queen initially in order to take out a side of the base, again trying to narrow the path that the dragons will have to come down. Notice how the queen can take out an air defense. If you are going to use your king and queen in an area, you might decide to use your king on one side and the queen on the other, depends on the base design, but obviously use your queen wisely to reach over the walls. We did use a wizard here initially. Now some of you might be thinking that that building could have been taken out by an archer, but you've also got to take note that that would have taken a lot more time, and them seconds might have been the difference between a 3-star and a time fail. We're using baby dragons to set the funnel here. That is all time. The dragons aren't the quickest in the world, but the Dragbat attack strategy, you should probably not time fail, but do take note when you are funneling troops, you might have to consider time as well. Now guys, I do pause the replays on many of these videos. That's because the attack is kind of getting ahead of what we are explaining, so unless I were to just carry on explaining on one point meanwhile you're watching another, and then I can't explain that point, then it gets incredibly difficult. Some people want to just watch the gameplay, but on the tutorial videos, just know that that's what I'm doing. Notice how we took apart that part of the base with the king and queen in order to keep the pathing for the dragons thinner. Again, we're using the stone slammer onto this area to try and path these, so you can now see where the dragons have a much thinner base in order to get through. Their pathing is very good here moving through. Now we do have a lava hound in front of the dragons. If you have an air defense early on and many point defense and you're going to have good coverage from the lava hound, you might decide to use that. I love the bats in order to take out this multi, in order to try and push the dragons through these expos and the dangerous defenses. I feel like this attacker got a little bit unlucky with the pathing of the bats following that, but I do like how he used it to path the dragons into that dangerous area, because again, whether you use the slammer for an area, the bats for an area, you've always got to keep pathing in mind. But that being said, the dragons have taken out them dangerous defenses in the middle. The bats have moved through. They've taken out that far air defense. We've just really got this one air defense to worry about, and we've got the loons and the dragons coming through. So try to identify bases where you get good pathing. You can hit the splash with the dragons, and you can easily keep the bats onto the dangerous defenses, ideally keeping the bats alive in order to help with cleanup, but also taking down the point defense, because if you have a defense which is just shooting a single shot, the bats can get straight through that area easily, so you want to try and keep them alive. I hope that video has helped you, and let me know if you have still been using this strategy. I feel like it is very underused for how powerful it can be. Very much a forgotten strategy, but it is in one of my best and most recommended attack strategies. If you do want to see the top 3 attack strategies, in my opinion, at Town Hall 10, here is the video for you. You guys will want to watch that if you want to know the best way of 3-starring a base. But that wraps it up for this one. Until next time, guys, peace out.